Saying you have a 10-person team, don't go for the 11th person to hire. Take the annual salary of that person and allocate it to an AI solution.
So where is AI really truly helping B2B marketers right now? Is it still kind of more talk than actually real impact?
Yeah, I think most of the time people build tiny workflows and let their emails write or co-write by ChatGPT and create images for presentations. And that's all fine, but I think there's very little professional use still. Imagining AI being an extra person in the room. And then you just need to figure out what would that person say and do for the user. Most people are annoyed by chatbots because 10 years, 15 years, we had very bad experiences with chatbots. The question of when will Google be replaced by ChatGPT, if ever? And I think search is the one field that is so ubiquitous that anyone is doing search all the time.
The issue of privacy and compliance. I wanted to see your opinion and kind of how big of an issue it is and how to address it. And also associated with it, the cost of implementing AI in the marketing environment.
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Latin America has the tablita. Japan has the Kokuri-son game. Ancient China has the Fuji. And here, in the USA, we have the Ouija board. What do all these things from all corners of the world have in common? They all claim to help you communicate with the spiritual world, to uncover the answers to even the most challenging cosmic questions. To believers, these tools are like magic, earthly conduits to all-knowing spirits. To skeptics, they're akin to snake oil, summoning the answer you want to hear based on phenomena like the idiometer effect and a healthy dose of user expectations. Do the spirits really move the Ouija board's planchette towards certain letters, summoning the answer to your most vexing question? Or is the game all hype? Or is it something in between? And as global energy marketer, how can we summon real results from AI tools? Because without the right strategic approach, it's easy to feel let down by all the hype. If you're having trouble separating fact from fiction, fear no more. The truth about practical AI is out there, and we're going to help you uncover it from an international perspective. Welcome to the HEX-Files Energy Marketing Podcast with me, your host, Arnaud Dasprez. If you want to believe, you've come to the right place. Today on the HEX-Files, we'll be talking about AI through a practical and global lens. Because like magic and spirituality, every culture has its own take on AI. Here in the US, we're considered a leader in AI adoption and innovation. Nearly every client we work with is using AI in some way, shape, or form to enhance efficiency. At Hexa Group, we also leverage AI tools to ideate better and streamline administrative tasks so that we can focus on our highest and best use for our clients. But the AI divide is real, and the experience of other countries can provide helpful insights into the future of AI for energy marketers. As you may know, I'm French and living in Texas. And like me, our energy clients are increasingly international. So today, I'm excited to dive into AI using a multicultural point of view. There's no one better to discuss this with than Marco Luciano, an Italian living in Germany, working with global B2B companies. As founder and managing director of the BBN AI studio, Marco leads a global team dedicated to empowering B2B marketing and sales organization with advanced AI solutions. BBN AI Studio offers a full suite of AI-driven services, and Marco's team has proven expertise in leveraging AI to boost creative excellence, enhance lead generation efficiency, accelerate complex sales cycle, and optimize account-based marketing. Welcome to the HEX-Files, Marco. Let's uncover the truth. So, hello, Marco. How are you doing today?
Very good. Excited for the recording.
Yes, sir. I guess, let's cut through the buzz and talk about our topic today. So where is AI really truly helping B2B marketers right now? Is it still kind of more talk than actually real impact?
Yeah, I think most of the time it's used in providing efficiency to teams. So people build tiny workflows and let their emails write or co-write by ChatGPT and create images for presentations. And that's all fine, but I think there's very little professional use still. So professionalized governance and structures in place. But we will come to the point, and I think over time, everyone will get to that.
So you think people are using it, but not to its full extent yet, huh?
Yeah. I think there's some use cases that are very prone, especially to marketing people, be it in the energy sector or other fields of B2B marketing. I think they start to embrace things like research, doing that on a professional level, maybe having a view on their competitors and then let AI synthesize the knowledge gained through deep research, for example. That is one use case I think is so obvious, but I find very few companies doing that on a constant and professionalized way. And even less companies actually using AI in their own experiences, in their own platforms, in their websites, in their campaign journeys. And I think there's room for improvement, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and thanks for that. I mean, definitely basic usage of AI for this type of research. I mean, everybody's kind of using it, but I think, in your line of work, you have really some pretty good practical kind of use case for that you can share. And I remember you talked to me about some manufacturer of welding machine and how they actually start implementing it. And that was very interesting, especially, because this is the type of customers that we work with, and that would definitely resonate very well with our audience. Can you just tell us a little bit the background and kind of how you got involved and what was the outcome or is the current outcome of this initiative?
Yeah, sure. So I remember our conversation vividly, and we started, if you remember, with the question of when will Google be replaced by ChatGPT, if ever? And I think search is the one field that is so ubiquitous. Anyone is doing search all the time. And what we've built for one company that has hardware products, like you said, welding machines, it could be pumps, it could be whatever infrastructure you have, and they have a big catalog and information is in the website, in the product information management system, in their ERP, and users need access to those information. And we've built an AI search, compared the AI overview by Google on their website, so people can just type in their question and get the answer instead of getting a list of ranked links and then they need to find out all on their own. With us, they can just have their question, get an AI generated information, and they can also upload a photograph of the metal plate they find on the infrastructure. So if you want to fix the pump somewhere in the middle of nowhere, then you just need your cell phone and good internet connection, upload a photo to our search, and then we can identify through vision models and then give you access to the knowledge through large language models. So that's one of the use cases I think will be prevalent everywhere in B2B.
So I think, the first part, the kind of the advanced search, and that's something that some of our listeners, may have seen or may actually use or may look into implementing. But tell me a little bit more what you're talking about, kind of the maintenance aspect, uploading an image and kind of getting some information, because that's something that I think is very interesting.
Yeah, so the idea was, how many people go out doing maintenance and repair somewhere remotely and then they figure out, oh, the machine I need to fix is not the machine I expected to see. And maybe they just don't know beforehand because the documentation wasn't good. So what we've built is the website search enhanced with an image upload. So you just take a photo, upload it to our search, and then a vision model recognizes every information on the name tag you find on most machines. And then through the serial number or the product name, we identify the right product and the maintenance documentation and warranty and security information. And then we can give that back to the user in the way they need it. Sometimes they need a step-by-step checklist. Sometimes they just want one sentence with their answer. So I think blending the marketing website experience with tangible day-to-day practical use is key for B2B companies. Also to make sure their investment is not just for the website experience, it's also in daily operations.
So really, you have two different audiences, and that second audience, your internal audience of people developing maintenance, whether they are internal or actually partners providing the maintenance, that's where your this model access all the backend kind of documentation and how-tos of the organization. Is that correct?
Exactly. So you decide what access we give to the system. So obviously we can still gate something, but the use case of giving more knowledge to the people out there also justifies then making the product better. So this is, I think, very strong.
And so you mentioned chatbots and chatbots being annoying. And so how do you look at, optimizing AI and kind of using it in a different way than kind of the usual chatbot? Can you tell us a little bit about this topic?
So as you said, most people are annoyed by chatbots because 10 years, 15 years, we had very bad experiences with chatbots that are deterministic. So they needed exactly to know what to go in which route and case. And that didn't work well, I would say. And now it's very hard to train people that chatbots could be good, like website features. And what we think is that we could use the pattern differently. So, for example, if you are on a product detail page, on a information loaded topic area on a B2B company's web experience, and you need information just for the section you're currently seeing as a user, then it would be very handy to have a panel that slides out of the side of the page, not hindering to see the actual content, but enhancing, augmenting it with extra information. And that's what we do. We take a look at the user's behavior, anticipate what that user might need looking at that specific section. For example, product comparison is very different to an industry use case or testimonial. So depending where the user is, we show them the right content and let people decide if they want to go into conversation with that AI augmentation, or they're maybe just happy and then they scroll and go to the conversion.
And so how do you make it so it doesn't look like it's intrusive?
Yeah, that's a tough decision to be made. And sometimes it's still good to give people, the users, a very clear indication that this is AI generated. And in some markets, maybe also in energy markets, it's very important to make sure what information is defined by a human being and what is synthesized, generated by an AI system. And I think playing with different types of user interface, so for example, chips and nudges, so different types of buttons on the page compared to the text elements on the right side of your page, that could be one option, for example, to make sure the users understand there's a difference in what they browse and what they interact with.
So when you get to an interface UI kind of a initiative, you now take into consideration kind of this AI interaction as part of the overall kind of a design of an app or of a website. And how do you communicate that to the designers?
So that's oftentimes a very vivid discussion with the whole team, also with tech people. And what helps is imagining AI being an extra person in the room, not only when you decide about making that experience a good one, but also thinking an AI agent being on the page for the user all the time. And then you just need to figure out what would that person say and do for the user? What would it decide right now when we discuss about priorities on the page experience? So having that humanization of AI sometimes does the trick of understanding what is helpful and what's just AI for the sake of AI. And you need to be very careful not to bloat everything with AI features nobody really needs. And I think it will take another few years actually to see the patterns, to see what users really are happily adopting, like search, and maybe some other things might disappear over time again.
And I have a little side question because we're in the middle of it. But you know how back a while back, there was all this little bot or little helper that operating system would bring in, and they had all these cute names. And today, when we're looking at an app that's going to be your assistant, your personal assistant, your bot or whatever, we have a lot of requests, and I say a few requests around, should I name it and how should I name it? And there's kind of a little bit of a branding around my AI family of assistants. And internal, external. Tell me if you've, on your side of the fence in Europe, you experience these same questions from your clients.
Absolutely. So this is very interesting because it's the fun part. Most of the time, these projects have a fun part, which is how can we frame that solution? Is it a humanized version or is it very anonymous and just without a name? And I would say there's content defining if it would be good to humanize. So for example, if your potential use case is very critical and maybe people don't feel comfortable in telling something to a human being, then that could guide also your decision making an AI agent more humanized or an anonymous feature. And especially in Europe, Germany, we are very cautious about what is data privacy for the user, how do they feel comfortable, how can we be inclusive for many users. And I think most of the cases, there's no big need for giving everything a name because you cannot afford to brand all your experience with different names. It just confuses people. But if it helps the rollout, then try it out. You can change it afterwards.
That's correct. I mean, that's kind of what our general recommendation is. But we've seen some fun names, especially on AI-driven bots, that they want to make sure that they refer to it internally and then it becomes the external name and vice versa. It's kind of interesting to see.
And the same is true for us, right? In BBN, we have a multitude of agents coming up into our ecosystem. And it's just helpful to say, okay, the content engine is called Connie and the researcher is Ronnie. So you just remember what is what agent for and where does the scope of the one end and the other start.
So let's talk about Ronnie for a second. And let's discuss a little bit ChatGPT versus Google and kind of this whole evolution of what was and may not be longer, be called SEO, but that was one of the kind of the tactic that was really implemented across all industries, search engine optimization and how to do it. And that's been evolving almost weekly for the past, I don't know how many years, but today, with AI, it's really completely transforming. And I wanted you to kind of give our audience a little bit of a background and what is changing and how they should address kind of getting found on the World Wide Web today.
So we're coming out of a week where Google released a lot of new products and features, and Microsoft pushed a lot of Copilot features out. So we can expect that every big platform, every big technology will include their own AI ecosystem. And that means for many use cases, people might not need to go to a specific website and search for a ranked list of results, as I said before. But I think it's still important to be found, and then having AI is both helpful and harmful in this case because everyone will do mediocre content. So it will be not so easy to stand out in a positive way, and you must do a lot just to keep the same level as everyone else. And through a different set of methodologies, you can make sure that you still have some competitive edge. I think the main concept that you should keep in mind for that is the user intent. So keeping a very good understanding of what your user base has as context and knowledge before coming to your page and what their main goal might be. That is driving the content UX definition, I would say. And that's then no big difference if someone is using ChatGPT and searching a whole sentence compared to typing 2 keywords into Google search.
So let's take a quick example. I'm a startup company and I have a piece of software that is a bit transformative from the industry that handles pipeline leak management, right? Leak detection. I'm starting fresh. I have no content. I have a strong creative brand. I want to develop brand awareness. I want to be found online. So back in the day, we would develop a lot of long form content, technical, less technical. We would implement some paid search to be found. So without getting into kind of the overall kind of 360 approach, but today I want to be found through ChatGPT and still Google what would you do? What would be your advice?
So I think it's not completely different. And starting from scratch is always a challenge, and it has been a challenge in the past too. So authority of your domain maybe is then a big problem you need to work on, but that's how life is. Ideally, you have some authors you can show on the page that come with authority because large language models understand context very well. So if you accumulate people and names transparently, that can kickstart your visibility. And then I would say focus on the helpful content first. So as you said, long form is very good, but maybe you pick the top X problems that your potential user might have and create an FAQ like page content that is very good as a short paragraph of answers. Because in ChatGPT, you can expect people to have a problem definition and they want a short summary which acts as their answer. And if you go with the right user selection, have their intent in mind, and you provide different versions of an answer in a short paragraph, that is a good starting point. And then maybe add some markup information on your page so the robots can understand your content in the ideal way. These are the kinds of things I would start with, actually.
And so that's, is there any recommendation in terms of the way you actually develop the user interface?
I personally, there's a big discussion or debate going on, I would say, in the world of UX people, and I can only recommend reading the blogs maybe from Nielsen. So I personally think we are definitely looking into a web that is more basic content pieces compared to JavaScript and animation savvy pages because robots don't see them. Users might not see them that much because they use a different interface to the web. Maybe IO from OpenAI and Johnny Hive will build some product that you just chat with while walking around. So there's no browser actually. Therefore, create text, maybe image and video because the models get better in understanding multimedia too. And maybe audio, like this podcast, could be a good idea to make the experience on their page interesting and intriguing so people stick with you and come back, but not waste too much money into nice templates and shiny effects and parallax and scrolling features like we all did some years ago, because their relevancy might go down a little bit.
Yes, no, I mean, that's true. So, I mean, really, there is still a lot of content to be developed for to be found online, whether it's be found on a Google search or another type of search. It's the overall you feel has not drastically moved. What about, you were talking about domain authority, and there was a lot of linkage between domain authority and backlinking, making sure your content is linked through kind of a widest net across the web. Is it still as relevant as before, or do you see it more relevant, or maybe something that you shouldn't develop any type of budget around?
I think, to be honest, that the problem might be even bigger because there's also the trend of people searching in places like TikTok, which is a completely different domain with no real backlink structure at all. So theoretically, the backlinks will be still relevant, and I assume that will be the case, especially in B2B, because trusted sources that your site is named on will always help. And it will be helpful to name trusted sources from your site as well. So keep that in mind when building the FAQ, for example, that it's okay to cite an industry magazine or someone else providing a good service. But coming back to your question, I think it might be even more important to have very specific niche information on your page, and then backlinking might be a challenge for that.
Okay, well, thank you. I think this is always a question that we need to address, always staying on top of. Let's move a little bit into a different topics, but still related to AI is we are in the marketing field. We are providing service to our clients, whether it's supplementing their existing team, replacing their team, full outsource campaigns. How do you see kind of AI reshaping kind of this, the agency world, the agency client relationships, and how to address that?
So, besides the big trend of AI, I think the last years have shown that most big companies, especially bigger B2B energy companies, they have a strong marketing organization and they've insourced a lot of the traditional agency business. So there's a big trend, I would say, that agencies must up level to stay relevant, to bring extra quality into the projects. And AI is coming with three areas, I would say, that most important. So one would be the AI ready workforce. So agencies could be the ones that lead the pack and that showcase what is really happening right now, what can be productized. The second thing would be workflow. So the integration of human beings and AI agents, for example. How can we manage that? Who's orchestrating that? Can be a chaos. So managing the chaos is also some job for agencies out there. And running AI ecosystems with customized solutions, that's what we do a lot in BBN, I think is also a typical field where agency client relationships might change over time and where it's so valuable for big organizations to bring in their agency and see their workforce, their workflows, and their ecosystems in place and getting the best of the industry, the best of multiple industries, because it's already tested and proven. And that's where I see the future of B2B agencies going to. It might take a little while, but I think it's a good future for all of us.
So you mentioned the industry insourcing. You're talking about this is a trend that you see in Europe or you see it worldwide? Because in our specific field, we haven't felt it yet. I mean, it's kind of a more of a based on the company culture than an overall trend. But have you seen that corporations are really starting to develop strong marketing departments?
Yeah, at least, as you said, my view is maybe Europe biased or even Germany and the countries around that, because that's my home turf. But I see companies getting bigger, like billion-dollar companies. They create their own marketing teams with specialist knowledge in there. So they have digital advertising teams, they have their website teams, analytics teams, and so on and so forth. And then they have nearshoring teams, for example, in Eastern Europe or somewhere closer to their headquarters with graphics services and email campaign management. And they have their offshore teams in Asia, which is another cost level compared to Europe. So this cascade then translates into, what do I need an agency for? I don't need it to produce my brochures. I don't need it to run my email automation campaign, but I need them for creative concepts and good ideas. And maybe also running my AI ecosystem and my workflows. And I can understand that. I can see that trend happening, at least here with us. And I wouldn't see any good indicator why not more companies go that route, because with AI agents, they can do it even easier.
And I guess in our world at Hexa Group, we call that kind of marketing sustainability in terms of doing more, with less, how to evolve the whole budget shift. And you mentioned it very well, the element of managing kind of their the big idea, but also making sure that we can give them the right tools to optimize AI to be more efficient, supporting this team on that end. That makes absolute perfect sense. And that's kind of we see that more and more. I mean, it's either a completely strategic marketing kind of engagement, or it's really helping them in this new type of technology. One element that I wanted to pick your brain about, and it's becoming more and more important, is we're talking about AI, we're talking about ChatGPT, even a multi-billion-dollar kind of app that is available for free or for $20 a month now, and gives you a tremendous power. So everybody kind of, once you taste it, I mean, you start embracing it. But there's really a strong element and a strong issue that's arising, and it's the issue of privacy and compliance, right? And I wanted to see your opinion and kind of how big of an issue it is and how to address it, and what would be your comments in that sense. Privacy, compliance, and also associated with it, the cost. Okay, the cost of implementing AI in our case in kind of the marketing environment?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, especially sitting in Europe, having EU AI Act, which is one of the first guidelines worldwide to trying to navigate things like data privacy and security. I assume that the big companies will decide either building their own platform on top of OpenAI and Claude of Anthropic and maybe Gemini, or they go into their workhorse, which might be the Google Workplace or Microsoft Office with Copilot. So this is either or decision. And over time, I assume it's obligatory for everyone to have a professional setup. So having the $20 seat is nice and it's good for trying things out, but over time you want your team to be in a governed area where the document upload and the configuration of all your custom GPTs can be secured, can be translated to a different model from OpenAI to Claude, for example. So that's why we built a more flexible solution in which we keep the power with us and have all the government levels on our end. So we can manage the users, manage the tokens, and manage who sees what at what time. And I assume from the agency side, it's a little easier for us. And maybe we are more prone to trying things out. But over time, every big corporation might need to do that from a legislative standpoint or from a data security hacking standpoint.
And so when you're talking about your, the way you address it and how you keep that, can you give us a couple of example of your, of Ronnie and
The whole
I like your
team.
names. Yeah.
So we've built a platform that is connected to all the big large language model providers. As I said, Google, Gemini, and OpenAI, ChatGPT, and so on. And in that platform, we manage the registration and the user interaction on our own, which is upfront cost, upfront tech you need to run, but that keeps us out of their dominance zone. So if they change something we don't like, we can move on and we have all configuration, all the data with us. And in that ecosystem, we also build our own agents. This is Rami, this is Kyler, this is Connie, there's also a Sammy. So there's a small team of agents that have a very specific task, for example, reviewing tender information, researching the web for competitor information, creating content, obviously. So everyone has a dedicated job to do, like in an agency, and we orchestrate that team of agent in our own platform. So this gives us the freedom to steer the whole group into a direction we like. And if some new model comes out, as you said, we are living in a tsunami of crazy news and releases all day. We can just flip a switch and say, okay, next model is better than the old one. We use the next one as soon as it's public for API and still keep our governance in place. That's so good of a feeling to know we can do that on our own.
And so that if you're looking at just for the sake of clients that want to build their own AI team, to build something like this around the whole marketing ecosystem, what type of skill set do you have in-house to kind of build it and maintain it? And from an IT standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a operator standpoint?
So bad news is I would say that's not a typical agency payroll you're looking at. It's software development, quite frankly. So you have people that know their way around with APIs and different frameworks and know how to connect that to a compelling front end. But there are many solutions in the market. So maybe you just try one of these, maybe connect with your team or someone else that you trust and find the right for you. You don't need to build everything from scratch. You can take market-ready solutions and make them your own. It's still better than going directly to one of the big platforms, I would say. And then you map your workflows, and that's where the marketing organization comes into play, maybe together with one of your strategic agency partners. And you map everything you do and prioritize by the number of runs per year or the cost related to that, and find out in what of these workflows is AI really playing a critical role in terms of pace, in terms of cost savings, in terms of better quality, whatever you prefer. And then you can build your personal agent team. Maybe you have your own Connie, your own Sammy, because that's just happening all the time.
So, what kind of budget or effort should a company expect when starting with AI, and how do you recommend they begin?
The impossible question,
I know.
always. My personal experience is that thinking again AI as a colleague is helpful. So if you are on the edge of saying, oh, the team is pretty packed, they have a lot of projects on the backlog, I could hire someone. That is the moment I would immediately think of, okay, we need to invest that into AI solutions, which will be helpful and save the money of payroll and reallocate it into an investment. So saying you have a 10-person team, don't go for the 11th person to hire. Take the annual salary of that person and allocate it to an AI solution. And in most cases, this is substantial money. You can do something with that already. Not everything that you might have ideas for, but you can start the first experiences, and then it's very, very easy then to get a better feeling if another investment might make sense because you save more money.
You know, it's extremely interesting what you just said. And I'll tell you for two reasons. I mean, when you're looking at a AI budget based on basically payroll, I mean, which is basically what you said, you're tapping into almost like a different budget. It's not like a marketing budget, right? I mean,
No.
it's kind of a mix, right?
Yeah.
And we are working at the moment on a pretty large project with that deals with the humanoid in the heavy industry side. And basically, there's a big lack of resources to do some skilled work, but very strenuous and dangerous, like welding in the shipyards and things of that nature. And so one of our clients is building some technology, humanoid, I mean, robots, AI, I mean, definitely, that will be taking over some of those tasks. But when you look at the commercial model, you're basically leasing an employee in essence, right? And so if you start talking to a CFO and say, okay, if your payroll is X and you're looking at, you should invest, let's say 10% of your payroll into AI, and that's going to bring you maybe X of ROI. I think it's also a good way to have AI. It's almost feeling like it's supplementing, because you have to overcome a lot of those perception that AI is taking over jobs. I mean, it is in a way, but it's also a new way of working, in essence. I like that piece of information. Look at it from a percentage of your payroll, because I don't think many people have thought about it that way. I don't know if in Europe it's the way they budget, but here it's more almost, it's looking like a workflow. Workflow means IT, means
Exactly. It's
technology. So it comes
license
out of the
cost.
technology.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the way you look at it is actually very, very, it's much, much better.
I think at least it's helping to make an informed decision, because if you would hire that AI agent and you would say, I invest 50K of annual salary, which is maybe not too crazy for most markets we're talking about, but assuming that agent could also fix a problem in sales. So it wouldn't be a marketing payroll investment only. It would be also creating content for sales emails in the Salesforce environment, for example. Or it could help people in your service organization to be better and faster in fixing client feedback and helping them along. So I think it's valuable to see it as an enhancement of your company, so people that you already have can focus on the high quality and priority work, which is more conceptualized.
No, I think that's correct. We're getting to kind of toward the end of our conversation here. And I mean, Marco, I really wanted to thank you for all that great information. I think it was extremely actionable, especially when we discuss, the element of budgeting for AI, when we talk about the search aspect and kind of the technology, how to get started. I mean, this is very, very, very good information. I wanted to kind of give you a couple of minutes to kind of tell us and tell our audience a little bit what you do in that field, and tell us, where they can find you.
Oh, that's kind. We're basically starting just a couple of months ago as a global initiative with a team scattered across the globe, and we built these custom solutions, which we've talked about in the beginning, like the search engine for the company that has welding machines. And we also provide agencies and marketing organizations with the workflow intelligence and the ecosystems. So if they just have a hard time finding the right solution, finding the right tool, but they know they want something that is more than just a ChatGPT license for $20 per user, then they can connect with us and we help them find the right one. Sometimes we provide it directly to them, and sometimes we just guide them and help them make their own path. And that's it's interesting, it's challenging, and it's fun. And that's why it's so good to have the conversation today, because always we learn something from these conversations. And if someone is interested in knowing more, then I would say just connect with me on LinkedIn. That's maybe the easiest way for everyone nowadays. And I share a lot of our progress and the questions we think about on LinkedIn personally. So this is a good starting point, I would say.
And so they need to look for Marco
Luciano.
Marco Luciano, and they can connect with you on LinkedIn. Super. Well, thank you very much again, Marco. And I guess
Thanks for having me.
we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the HEX-Files, as we investigate the biggest curiosities in energy marketing so that you can separate fact from fiction. Curious how your brand ranks across 6 areas of energy marketing? Take a free assessment at hexagroup.com/podcast. And until next time, fear no more. The truth is out there.